How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Vav, Daf 46 of Masechta Ksubis. Friends, Daf 46, we're kind of moving over here. We're in another week we'll be halfway through Masechta Ksubis. How do you guys like Masechta Ksubis? It's good, right? I don't have any complaints. Honestly, after Yavamis, I'm happy. First part of the daf, we continue talking about Motzi Shemra, that whole situation. And then on Memvav Mud Beis, we discussed a father and the relationship between his father and daughter and stuff like that. Whatever, we'll get there. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. So we're on Daf Memvav Amud Aleph, 6 or 7 lines into the page. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, but Anshu also Zemamin. So it says that if the guy turns out to be a liar, he said that his wife was Mizana as an Marasa, and we have to stone her. It turns out he's lying. So Vanshu also Zemamin. So when it says that we punish him, it means that we fine him. That we make him pay 100 selas. V'yisru zemalkis. When it says that v'yisru, it means that we give him malkis. So I understand that v'anshu is referring to money, that he's got to pay money. The pasuk says v'anshu also me'akesef. It says in the pasuk that they punish him, and the punishment is that he has to pay 100 selas. V'nosnu lavi anaire, and he gives it to the father, to the naire's father. V'yisru zemalkis minol, and how do we know that v'yisru is lashes? Amar Babo, says Babo, Lamanu Yisru Miv'Yisru. Well, it says Yisru over here by Motzi Shemra, and it says V'Yisru by a Ben Sora Moire. You could tell me what Ben Sora Moire is. Nudnik. Is a kid who's a nudnik. It says over there V'Yisru. V'Yisru mi Ben, and it says by Ben Sora Moire it says V'Yisru, and it also says Ben, right? Ben Sora Moire. Uven mi bin. And then we say, well, we also have another pasuk. It says, "V'ayom bin akos harasha." It will be if we hit the nudnik. So it says, so we basically learn out from v'yisru from Motzi Shemra to Ben Sora Mora, and then from Ben Sora Mora we learn Ben and Bin from V'ayom bin akos harasha. Okay, basically v'yisru means malchus. Azhar the Motzi Shemra minolan. Where do we have a warning from Motzi Shemra? Right, of course. In the Torah, we can only punish somebody meaning the Torah will list a punishment, but it will also list in another place a warning. So where's the warning for Motzi Shemra? So it says Rabbi Elazar, well, the pasuk says, don't be a seilech rachil. Don't be a slanderer. Rabbi Nassan says, that you gotta protect yourself, you gotta guard yourself from anything that's ra, anything that's evil, like Motzi Shemra. So, okay. So those are two options for where we have a warning against being Motzi Shemra. Rabbi Elazar, my time Elomer may high. How come Rabbi Elazar learns it out from Lo Selech Rachel and not from V'nishmatim Mikol Davar Ra? Well, Haumi Boy Leilech Pinchas Ben Yair. So says Rabbi Elazar because V'nishmatim Mikol Davar Ra is needed for the teaching of Pinchas Ben Yair. V'nishmartim mikol davar ra, that when the pasuk says that you must guard yourself from anything evil, mikan omer Reb Pinchas ben Yair, from here it says Reb Pinchas ben Yair, al yahar odom bayom, a fellow shouldn't think of anything inappropriate during the day, v'yavulide tuma balayla, which will lead him to becoming tameh with tumas keri at night. Reb Nosson, my time omer mehai, how come Reb Nosson learns out from mi v'nishmartim mikol davar ra and not from lo selech rachil? Hahu azhar lebezdin shel yerach loze v'kosher loze. Then it says lo selech rachil. Rachil is like rach loze, right? The bezdin shouldn't. I think it means shouldn't show any favoritism, right? Shouldn't be soft to this fellow and hard to another fellow. They have to be objective. Lo amar lo edim bo ve'idunu ve'meidim osum elem. Now, if the husband did not say to the witnesses, "Hey, witnesses, come and witnessize," he didn't say that. He said, they just kind of came on their own. Who enoloka? Well, in that case, he doesn't get whipped, right? Meaning, he has to sort of, chaparine the witnesses himself and say, "Hey, witnesses, come and witnessize for me." Okay, fine, I won't say that. Witnesses come and testify for me. Witnify. That sounds like an app. Witnify. Witnessify. That's a good app name. Witnessify. Yeah. Witnessize. What does witnessify do? I don't know. Witnessify. Right. If anybody has any ideas for what witnessify should be, let's go weiter. So if he didn't find witnesses on his own and say, hey, witnesses come and testify, but rather they just came on their own, so hu no locus, so he's not going to get whipped, and he doesn't have to pay the 100 sela fine. And then she and the Eidim Zomim need to get stoned, like we saw the other day. What do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. That she and the witnesses who testified against her, who ended up being liars, they're all going to get stoned? No. If they're telling the truth, well then she gets stoned. If they're lying, well then they get stoned. So now we just said a second ago that if he chapsarain the witnesses himself, so then he'll be chayiv malchus and he'll have to pay the 100 selas if it turns out to be a fraud. If they came on their own, then he's potter. But the implication being that as long as he collected them, and chap the marain on his own, so then afagav lo agrinu, even though he didn't pay them epis, even though he didn't pay them anything. Lafukim Rabbi Yehuda, to the exclusion of Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer says Rabbi Yehuda eno chayiv ad sheyiskor edim. Rabbi Yehuda says Yidavka has to hire them, he has to pay the witnesses. And if he pays the witnesses and they turn out to be liars, so then we whip him and make him pay 100 selas. My time with Rabbi Yehuda, how come Rabbi Yehuda says that he needs to pay the witnesses? Omer babo ase sima sima. It says a babo because it says, right, Ksivacha, it says hereby motzishema v'som la'alilos dvarim, that he basically lied. And it says by interest, lo sesimun olav neshech, that don't charge any interest. Malahalan mamin afkan mamin. So just like, of course, by interest, we're talking about money. So also when it comes to Eidim Zomim, also when it comes to Motzi Shemra, he has to hire his witnesses with money. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Yosef Tzidoni Bey, Reb Shimon ben Yochai Asya Sima, that yes, we learn out this Gzeir Shav of Sima, that it says V'som la'alilos dvarim by Motzi Shemra, and it says Lo sesimun olav neshech, don't charge interest upon your friend. Friends, I might be tired. Well, yeah, I'm tired. What do you want me to tell you? But I'm not that tired. No, I'm pretty tired. But yeah, I'm like a certain kind of tired, I guess you could say. Like, I'm somewhat functional. It's the middle of the afternoon. I don't necessarily feel like I'm going to fall asleep or that I need to fall asleep. But my brain works like to an extent. To enough of an extent, I would say. But to an extent nonetheless. Okay, let's go weiter. Fine. By Rabbi Yirmiyah, so Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, Sichon b'kar kamal. What if he hired them, but not with like metaltlin, not with like money or anything like that, but with property? Since we're learning it out from interest is dafka money, right? So what about if he hired these witnesses, but with property? What if he hired them, but paid them less than a pruta? Or what if he hired two witnesses for a total of a pruta? So then what? Is he going to be chayiv malchus and stuff if they're lying or not? The Gemara doesn't seem to answer. Rav Ashi asks a kasha. Hotzi shemra l'nisuna rishonim mal. So what if you have a fellow, he gets married, gets divorced, gets remarried to the same woman, and then decides that, oh, by the way, the first time we got married, she was mizana acher erisin, and therefore she has to get stoned. So if he's being motzi shemra on the initial marriage, now that he's married for the second time, he's going back to the first marriage and saying it was motzi, that she was mizana acher eris. Anasue ochiv mal. Or what if it's a yavam, right? So Ruvain was married to Sarah, Reuven dies, right, and he dies like at the wedding. They never had bia, and then Shimon comes and they have bia, and then Shimon says, "Oh, by the way, when Sarah was married to Reuven, she was mizanach erison." So pshot miachada. So we asked two situations, right? One was, he gets married and then divorced and remarried. The other one was that, it's a situation of yibum. We can find out at least the answer for yibum. The Tani Rabbi Yonah taught as bitin asati leishaze lozav lo liyavim. That I gave, right, the father in this whole mess, he says, I gave my daughter to this fellow, right, and he hated her, whatever it is, but it says to this fellow, not to his brother, not to the other. My Rabbanon umay Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. So yesterday at the end of the daf we saw machlokas between the Rabbanon and Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, that the Rabbanon said that whether he that by Motzi Shemra it's whether they had beer or whether they didn't have beer. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says that the dafka had to have had beer. So now says the Gemara, Man Rabbanon Man Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. What is this machlokas between the Chacham and Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? Because we didn't reference the machlokas yesterday, we're going to reference it now. The Tanya is within the price. What is the process of Motzi Shemra? How does it work? So the husband comes to Bezdin. V'amar, and he says, Ploni, he says, hey, father-in-law, your daughter, I didn't find besulim. So if there are witnesses that she was mizana acher erisin, yesh la ksuba mana, then she can collect a ksuba of 100 zuz. To which the Gemara says, what? That doesn't make any sense. If there are witnesses that she was mizana after erisin, she gets a ksuba. Baskilahi, she gets stones. She doesn't get money, she gets stones in the face. This is what it means. No, if there are witnesses that she was mizanach erisin, then it's skila. Zinsa meikara yeshla ksuba mana. But if she was mizaneh before erisin, right? It was right the situation of konsa becheskas besula v'nimtza beula. So then ksuba samana, her ksuba is 100 zuz. So it's like the opinion that says that konsa becheskas besula v'nimtza is beula. The ksuba is amana. Remember that machlokas from the first parak? Nimtza shem ra. What? Nimtza shem ra. Eino shem ra. What? Oh, okay, yeah. Nimtza shem ra eino shem ra. If it turns out that he's lying, right? Meaning, right, he was trying to, give her a bad name, and it turns out it wasn't true. Hulokes, so he gets whipped. V'nosim me'asela, and he has to pay 100 selas. Bein ba'al u'bein lo ba'al. There you go. It says the rabbis that it's whether they had bia or whether they didn't have bia. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Omer lo nemu dvarim alalu elik shabah. Whereas Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov says no, they dafka have to have bia. B'shlomo Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov anu dichsev v'va elah ve'ekov elah. So I understand Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov who says that they have to have bia. That's why the pasuk says that the husband says, I had bia with her. I came to her. How do the rabbis who say that they don't have to have bia, how do you understand uva eleh, va'ekrav eleh, uva eleh balilos, va'ekrav eleh b'dvarim? Yeah, I came to her with lies, and I came close to her with, lies. So I understand according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, it says that they have to have bia. So I understand. I didn't find, right? It turns out we had bia, and your daughter wasn't a besula. According to the rabbis, what does it mean when he says that it turned, I didn't find your daughter to be a besula? How would you know? They didn't have bia. So I didn't find for your daughter any witnesses who are going to, dispute my claim that she is not a besula. I understand according to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov that the father counters and he says, look, here's this sheet, there's blood on it, she clearly was a besula. But according to the rabbis who said that they don't necessarily have to have bia, so what's he showing? What's the father showing? No, he's bringing counter witnesses. That the husband is saying that she was mizanach erison, and he brings witnesses, and now the husband is bringing kishrei besule biti, he's bringing counter witnesses to make the husband's witnesses into Edom Zobman and prove that they're wrong. I understand according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, it says that they had bia, that right? It says that they spread out the clothing and proved that she was in need a bsula. How did the rabbis who said that they don't have to have bia? So what are they showing? Amar Babo Pershu Ma Shesam Lo. That they explained the situation. What does it mean? Keditani lekulon in a brayso ufarso simla malamet sheba in edim shalzeh ve'edim shalzeh, that the witnesses of the husband and the witnesses of the father-in-law come uvaru in sadavar kisimla chadasha, and they clarify exactly what happened, like I guess a clean new garment. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer Dvarim Kichsavam. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says that they had bia, so it's just pashup pshat in the pasuk simla mamish. It means the garment, right? The garment that has blood on it, that proves that she was a besula. Shalach Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rav Yaakov bar Giori mishmei Rabbi Yochanan afagav shelo matzinu b'chol haTorah kula shechilik akasu ben bia kedarka devia shelo kedarka lemakis lo onshin. Even though in the entire Torah we never distinguish between bia kedarka and bia shelo kedarka. So let's say a fellow sleeps with his sister, so that's not allowed. So that's regardless of if it was kedarka or shelo kedarka. But avamotzi shemra chilek. But there's a different distinction when it comes to motzi shemra. Enuchayv ad sheyivol shelo kedarka. Interesting. So the husband, needs to have had bia with his wife shelo kedarka. Motzi shemra b'kedarka. And then when he comes and he's motzi shemra, he's saying that when she was an Ari Morasa, she had bia with somebody else kedarka. Come on, who's that like? According to the rabbis, this can't be like them, because the rabbis said that they don't even have to have bia b'chlal. We need both the Nari Morasa as well as the husband to have bia kedarka. No, so it says Rav Kahana, the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that he's only chayav if the husband has bia kedarka, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, as well as the other witnesses are testifying that when she was in Nari Marasa, she had bia kedarka as well. Friends, I'm going to chaparana shtik of water. Be right back. Alright, friends, moving on to a new Mishnah. That a father merits to his daughter's betrothal. Now, if she's a naira or a katana, because of b'shtar b'bia, to receive money, to receive a document, or bia, that he can give his daughter to a fellow for them to have bia and have kiddushin that way. Zaka b'mtziasa uv'maisei yodea, he merits to anything she finds or anything she produces. Uvafaris nedareah, and if she makes a neder, he can undo it, annul it. Mekabel gita, and he could receive her divorce document. So if she gets betrothed as a naira or a katana, and then she gets divorced from the betrothal, so then the father can receive that, to receive the get. But once she's married, then she's no longer in her father's rishus. Now the father, if the daughter inherits property from her mother, the father cannot eat the fruits of that property. Nises, but if she gets married, Yasser olav abal she'ochel peres b'chaya. Of course, as we've learned in the past by nichse melug, if the daughter or now the wife inherits property, so then it is hers. If they get divorced or something, she takes him with her. But he's able, right? The husband is allowed to eat the fruits, whereas the father cannot eat the fruits. B'chayev, and the husband is obligated b'mzonosel to feed her with pirkono kvurosa, and if she gets captured, he needs to pay her ransom. And if she dies, he has to pay for her burial. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, even the poorest pauper in Israel, should not have less than 2 flautists and a eulogizer at his wife's funeral. Says the Gemara B'Kesef B'Nolan, how do we know that the father can receive the money for his Na'ara or Ketana daughter's Kiddushin. So Amar V'Yehuda Amar Kra. So V'Yehuda, the pasuk says, V'yotzachinu min kasef, that it says by a Amo Ha'ivriya, by a Jewish maidservant, that she goes free and the master doesn't receive any money. In Kesef Ladon Zev Yesh Kesef Ladon Acher, that this master by a Amo Ha'ivriya doesn't receive any money, but there's a different master who does get money. Umanu, who's that master? Avia, her father. So that when she leaves her father's domain by getting betrothed, her father will receive the betrothal money. Ve'ema ledida. One second. Maybe I'll say she can chap it around. So hashta avia mikabel kiddushel. But 1 second. Her father can sort of, marry her off. The pasuk says, "It's bitin osati li shazeh," that I gave my daughter to this fellow. If he could marry her off, why would she receive the money? If he's marrying her off, he should be able to receive the money. But maybe I'll say that's not talking about a katana. Katana is not capable of marrying herself off, so her father can marry her off and receive the money. But maybe a naira, she could marry off herself and receive her own money. Let her take the money. The pasuk says that when she's a naira, she's an house of her father. Kol shvach nirim le'avia, that any sort of benefits of being a naira goes to her father. So therefore, the kesef kiddushin will go to her father. 1 second. Ve'elo hada amar Ravuna amar Rab. That which Ravuna said in the name of Rab. We've seen this, I think, once before. How do we know that which the daughter produces goes to her father? Shenema, as the pasuk says, v'chim kor ishes bito la'ama. Well, if a fellow sells his daughter to be an Amma, a Jewish maidservant, and we compare Amma and Bito. Amma, but just like a Jewish maidservant, what she produces goes to her master. Bas, also a daughter, what she makes goes to her father. Lomali. Now, if we're saying that we could just learn out from Binurah Beis Avia, Kol Shvach Nurim Le'Avia, why do I need to learn out that everything that the daughter does goes to the father from V'chiyim Kors Ishas Bito La'ama, comparing Bito and Amma? Learn it out from Binurah Beis Avia. Typically, Binurah Beis Avia, Ela Ahu B'Faris Nedarim U'Dichsiv. So rather, Binurah Beis Avia is not a general verse from which we can learn out that the father receives the kesef kiddushin of his naira daughter. Rather, it's specifically by a Faris Nedarim that the father can be made for the Nedarim of the daughter. But don't use that to say that the father gets her kesef kiddushin as a naira. But why don't we just learn out from there? So just like by a Faris Nedarim, the father can do that, be made for Nedarim. So also let's say that by kesef kiddushin, he can receive the kesef. Mamon meisur le'afinon. We can't learn out mamon, money, like kesef kiddushin, money, from isura, from Hafaris Nedarim, which is like Isser and Heter. Why don't we learn it out from Knas, right? We've been learning about Ones Mufata and that the Knas goes to the father. So let's say just like that, money goes to the father. So also the Kesef Kiddushin goes to the father. We can't learn out Mammon, money, from fines. Why don't we learn out from Boshes and Pegam, that the father can chaparan the Boshes and Pegam, shiny Boshes and Pegam, Davia Nami Shayechba. No, I can understand why the father can chaparan Boshes and Pegam, which is Mammon, because he's also, right, he can also sort of has the ability to marry her off in an embarrassing way, like to a Menuvel or a Mukashchin, and then this other guy kind of took that, he took that from him, right, through what he did, and now they potentially get married. So he pays the father for that. So how do we know then that when it comes to Stam Kesef Kiddushin, the father can chap it around when she's a naira? So it makes sense that when we say that, right, that when we compare the Jewish maidservant who leaves her master to a naira who's leaving her father, it would make sense that we compare it in the same ways. In that, just like when we say v'yatzachinu min kasef, that when she leaves her master, right, this Amma Ivriya leaves her master, there's no money to who? To the master, to the father. So it makes sense that when we're comparing that to the father, right? Aval yesh mamun le'adon acher, and that's the right that would be comparable, and say that the money goes to the father, right? Meaning, just like theoretically the money would go to the master, we're saying that there is no money, so no money goes to the master. But when she leaves her father's house, when we say that there is money, that money would be to the master, to her father. V'halo damya ha yitzia la yitzia. But one second, leaving her father's house is different than leaving her master. Hasam gabi adon nafkla me'shuse legamri. When it comes to leaving her master, she leaves her master entirely. Yitzia de'ab akati machzor mesir lechuppah. But when she leaves her father's house, right, when she gets engaged, she hasn't yet gotten married yet. She hasn't gone to the chuppah yet. Now, Afaras Nedarim miya nafkala me'shuse. Yeah, but in regard to Afaras Nedarim, however, she's no longer in the domain of the father. That's not naira marasa v'yovalim efin la nedareal. That a naira marasa, a betrothed naira, both her father and her husband jointly are made for her nedarim. So therefore, actually, when she gets engaged, then she's completely out of the rishus of the father with regard to Afaras Nedarim. Shtaru via. Right, we also said that the father has the right to kiddushin via a shtar, can receive that document or give over his daughter for bia. Minalan, how do we know this? It says that she will be to another man, and we compare all the different beings, whether it's kesef, whether it's shtar, whether it's bia, together, just like the father has rishus to the kesef, to the money, he also has rishus to the shtar and the bia. Friends, that was Daf Memvav of Masechta Ksubis. I gotta run. Peace out.